So I don't know if you can see Carla. We'll kind of get started, and then we'll give you guys. We'll just kind of jump into it. So a little bit about me. Some of you, I know some of you. Many others I don't. It's nice. We actually have people joining us all over the world, which is really, really exciting. So a little bit of history on who I am. So as a record producer and a songwriter, I've been very fortunate to work with, I like to joke, some of your mom's favorite artists, like Mariah Carey and Avril Lavigne and John Legend and Luis Fonsi and Amy Winehouse and a whole bunch of other people. But as a record producer and songwriter, I've also been very fortunate to work with a whole bunch of amazing brands and films, a lot of film and TV. And we're going to get into some of that, like Toy Story 4, and I have a Target ad. If you're in the U.S., you're watching. It's been playing for about a year now. That's really exciting, and we're going to get into all of these conversations about sort of like a little bit of tips and tricks. In the meantime, before we really dig in, we're going to talk about trends. We're going to talk about production. We're going to talk about why we think we've written a great song that for some reason isn't connecting in the film and TV and sync world. I want to talk about lyrical content, again, production, and then of course, really important things like actually creating and maintaining relationships with music supervisors, people that can find your song. We're going to talk about licensing. We're going to talk about the difference between a master recording and a sync license. Now, some people have more knowledge than others, so we're going to try and be as broad as possible. And if you want to get really hyper specific, just type in a question and Scott will present it to us. So anyway, let's jump into it. And again, thanks again for taking the time to join me today. It's going to be a lot of fun. So a little bit of history. I want to try and speak in a way that doesn't feel arrogant. So, and if anybody knows me, there's a lot of people that know me here. I'll try not to be an asshole. I'll try to be nice and down to earth. So one of the things that is interesting about film and TV, let's say, compared to a lot of times where we maybe write songs for other artists, or maybe we are artists ourselves, especially if you're an artist, is film and TV is an excellent way to create more income generation than just like bring about if people are going to stream or people are going to watch your videos or if people are going to come out to your shows. The idea of licensing your song 1, 2, 10, 100 times the same song to various different opportunities can be a real money earner. When you look at a song of mine, for example, there's a song that I wrote called "Feel So Good." That song actually started as I had been approached by an A&R person who was doing a record that who was representing Janelle Monáe, and she was doing a record that was based on inspiration from the movie Alice in Wonderland. So we wrote a song. I wrote it with my friend Jensen Vaughn. We wrote a song. We thought it was great. We sent it to the label. We got this feedback like we've all had. It doesn't work. We don't like it. Never mind. Thank you very much. Of course, we were all, disheartened, and we were like bummed that we thought we wrote a really great record that didn't connect in the way that we wanted to, right? So as my relationships, and I think this is actually, I want to actually talk about the concept of relationships for a moment. So when I had my first publishing deal, and I don't want to sound like, again, conceited, when I didn't really understand how to interact with a publisher or with creatives on the other side for many years until I really got into this business. In other words, when I was working with publishers early on, I was kind of bummed that they didn't pay attention to me, or I would send music out to people and I was kind of bummed that they didn't pay attention to me. And I was like not getting the feedback that I wanted to get. And then I started to realize that it was also about cultivating those relationships. And I think that sometimes is one of those things that people kind of take for granted. It's like, yeah, you could be in the studio making songs. That's great because your business doesn't exist without the songs. But if you're not cultivating those relationships in a sort of like honest way, then nothing's going to happen. So it's like, are you communicating with people? Are you emailing with them? Not in an intrusive way, but in a sort of like a friendly way. Are you maintaining those relationships? That is a big part of the business. It's not just about, I got to write a song and nobody gets it. It's like writing the song is 20%. 80% of the time it's networking, building those relationships, building those opportunities. Even if, I found, and Carla, maybe you could jump in a little bit on this one too, before we really dig into like creative stuff. But I found that if I have something that I think works, maybe not now, but works for something, and I'll send it to a music supervisor. And again, I don't want to take it, I don't want to sound like it's easy, because it's not. After we've built those relationships, they might hold on to a song, even if it's not right for this opportunity, but they might hold on to it for something down the line, right? Would you say, Carla, can you kind of talk to that a bit?
I agree. I think you have to have the relationship established first in order for them to do that. I think when you're really first starting to develop those relationships and you don't have someone like you or me can do that now. I think when you don't have those established relationships and you're sort of starting out, I think it's really, really important to do your homework, find out what those supervisors are working on, watch the shows, watch the movies, see, it's really easy to go watch a couple episodes of Grey's Anatomy to figure out what kind of music they're using, or 911, or any of those, How to Get Away with Murder, any of those. I think it's really important to first start off sending things that are extremely relevant to the supervisor to get their attention, because they're very busy. They're getting hit with a million emails a day. Everyone wants to sell them their music, everyone from Warner to Universal down to, just up and coming songwriters.
Right.
So I think getting down the road, yes, absolutely, once you have that established relationship. But at first, I think it's really important to stay super relevant to their projects.
Are there good tools for somebody who is just getting into film and TV to actually going and doing that research and finding out? Like, what are some good tools to use today for somebody, let's say, that doesn't have the type of network that we've built up over the years?
I mean, honestly, it's going, you can go into IMDb and look up, you can look up a music supervisor name and see what shows they've worked on, or look up a specific show or see who the music supervisor is. You can go to TuneFind and look at all the songs that have been listed in every TV show and film. And then just go in and start listening and watching. Also on nowadays on Spotify, so many shows have their own little Spotify playlist. So you can go in and see, songs that have been used, songs that are inspired by, and it really gives you a good sense of what those films and TV shows are using.
So let me ask you this. So, okay, I've now gone and discovered that Chop Shop does the music for all of these TV shows, right? Mm-hmm. And now I want to send something in for Dynasty or for Grey's Anatomy or whatever, right? How important is that first communication? In other words, if I send them something that's not great, or maybe not right on the nose, will I get a second opportunity down the line? Like, how important is that first contact?
It's important for sure. But I do think, listen, these guys are busy. Their most important part of their job is finding the song that works and delivering for their, producers, directors, studios. So
can I interrupt you for a moment there? You said find a song that works. Does that automatically mean, well, it has to come from a publisher, or does it literally mean the song that works?
The song that works.
Right. So there's not necessarily, maybe an advantage that a publisher has is that they might be able to pitch a whole bunch of songs. But if somebody, let's say in, Saskatoon has the actual perfect song for the perfect moment, they'll get that look, right?
If the song works, yeah, I think so. And another thing that's very important, I think, especially when you're sending music not from a label or a publisher, is lay everything out for them. Make it super, super easy. I cannot tell you how many times supervisors tell me they'll get music from somebody with like nothing in the metadata, nothing tagged. They can't figure out who it came from. Like, put everything in, you can go into your iTunes and tag all your metadata. And in addition to that, list everything out right there for them. I control this master and this publishing 100%. And if people have specific questions about that, we can get into that as well. this is easy, clear. Here's my name. Here's my contact info. They want to see also, in addition to the song being great, this is going to be easy for them, because if you have a great song and you're easy and fast to work with, they'll keep coming back for more.
So you're talking about metadata. Obviously, that's a big part of what we're doing in MDIIO. And I just wanted to sort of, this is not about MDIIO. This is about sort of just communicating with you guys. But if you want, hit up brand@mdiio.com, brand@mdiio.com. And we'll set up another webinar that will actually go through and show you MDIIO. So show you how to tag stuff. We can do that all on the side. So I don't dig in too deep into it today. It's not really about that. But if you feel like you want to jump in and get like a real tutorial with me on it, happy to set that up too. Not a problem. We'll set up like small groups of 10 or whatever, show you how that works. So you can add metadata, pitches, all of that kind of stuff. I want to talk about, so when you look at a show like Grey's Anatomy, right, or whatever, right, any of the shows that you named, typically, what are the fees that would be associated to getting a song placed in a show like that?
They really run. They're really all over the place. It could be, if they're looking for a massive catalog hit, or, something, that's, a number one charting hit right now, those are going to be decent fees. For somebody up and coming, it might be, as low as $500 a side, meaning, and again, we can get into more of this later. So you are paid on the publishing side, and then on the master side of your song, it's actually 2 different licenses. So you would get $500 for your publishing, whether that's you or split up with a few different people, and then $500 for your master. So I would say as low as that.
In other words, the master is the person who owns the recording, and the publishing is the people that put the song. Right. Yes. So if you're an indie artist and you paid for your own record, you own your own master, and your publishing, let's say if you wrote it 100%, would also belong to you. In other words, in that scenario, you get paid $1,000. But let's say you co-wrote a song with somebody, then you would split the publishing share, so half and half, and you would keep the master share, let's say.
Exactly. So anywhere from there to maybe like $2,000-$3,000. It all depends. And I'm talking specifically about TV, which is different from film, which is different from trailers, which is different from ads. So every media is a little bit different.
And even though there's no like rate card, let's say per se, there's sort of like an understanding of what the value of those placements would be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you another question, and a lot of you might already know the answer, but some of you might not. So I've now gone and licensed my song to Lethal Weapon, right? Can you then license the same song to another show, or to a TV commercial, or to a film?
Unless they have specified that they want exclusivity in that license, which sometimes does happen with brands, where they'll say, we want exclusivity for fashion for the next 6 months. Yeah, you can license it as much as you want. And I will say, if someone wants exclusivity on your song, you should charge them more. Right.
So in other words, if you, let's say, get a car commercial and they say we want exclusivity in the whatever vehicles, I don't know, whatever, you can turn around, but you can actually license that song to Microsoft if you wanted to, because it's not competitive.
Yes.
In terms of right. So you can literally license a song as many times as you want, basically, right?
Yes. And if people do want very aggressive exclusivity on a song they're trying to license from you, I would be wary of that. Anything beyond maybe for a brand saying, hey, for 6 months, we want this exclusive for automobiles or something like that. But if someone wants, I've just seen so many cases of people trying to take advantage of unsigned writers and artists because they think they don't know any better, saying, we want exclusivity and perpetuity for promos for this. No.
So let's say you are that independent or unsigned writer, and you get approached, because I'm sure that tons of people here that are a part of this chat here with us have had the opportunity to play songs, maybe for free, maybe for, whatever, $100 a side, whatever. What would be that step where I've now received this license and I'm going to now, do I negotiate it? Do I have the opportunity to kind of push back? Do I accept it as is? Can you talk about some of that process?
Yeah, look, for somebody like me, it's very different than, you know, an up and coming artist or writer trying to get their first sync, you know? So, it really depends on what your priorities are. You know, if, you know, I would say probably if it's your very first sync, you don't have too much wiggle room. You know, it's always, you know, you can always ask. I think you have to do it in the right way, you know. And another thing I would say, especially if you have any other co-writers on your song, especially if somebody is signed to a publisher or something like that, approve everything MFN with co-pub and master, because that means what MFN means. It means that if your co-writer has a publisher and they quote double what you agreed to, MFN means everyone gets the highest rate that was agreed upon. So even if you say like, okay, yeah, sure, you can have this for $100, but someone comes back and says, and unbeknownst to you says, no, I want $500. And the person licensing the song agrees to that, everybody gets that higher fee. So it's important to remember, just when you sign something, MFN with master and co-pub, if there's anybody else on the song. Right. And that will never lower. That MFN only applies to if someone comes in higher. It will never lower what you agreed to. But I think that's tricky when you're first starting off negotiating too much. I think if you feel, the most important thing to pay attention to is the rights that they're asking for. You know, again, somebody wants, you know, like a full buyout. They want something, they want exclusivity in perpetuity. They're trying to get any sort of additional rights to your song, I think, because I do see that happen from time to time, and that's something to be aware of. As far as bumping the fee, you know, you can always ask, hey, I don't want to lose this. Is there any wiggle room here? Sometimes people will be honest and say, yeah, you know what, I could probably tack on another 100 to whatever. But that's a slippery slope at the beginning, to be honest.
I think the idea here is, if I'm going to just recap this before we sort of move into the next kind of phase, it's building those relationships. Even if it's, I mean, here's a perfect example. Most of the people that responded to this webinar came through jgray at MDIIO, which is my email account. Like, there's a relationship there. We've now started this relationship. It's a big part of what we're trying to do in MDIIO. Again, soft sell. I'm not selling it. I'm just saying that, you know, it's about how do you build those networks. We all started with our first relationship. Like, you know, for me, I remember it started with my mom's friend married a music manager named Steve Probass. That's literally how it started. He's not with us anymore. And, you know, and he's like, yeah, sure, I'll meet Justin. And we met and we talked, and he gave me some insight, and I learned from that insight, and I built those relationships over the years. And I mean, I've been doing it for 20 plus years, and I'm still working with people that I worked with 20 years ago. So those relationships, that networking never gets old. You only just keep adding to it, right? One of the things I wanted to talk about real quick as we're jumping in here is I want to play you a couple of things, and the audio is not going to be great, so I apologize in advance, but I want to play you bits of a couple of things that have done really well, and I want to give you a bit of history on these songs. So I'm going to talk about, we talked about earlier the song Feel So Good, which was originally written for Janelle Monáe, and we didn't get any response on it. And just to give you a little insight, so about 2 years after we wrote this song, maybe about a year after we wrote this song, and we got no love, and I was having difficult time. And by the way, quick sidestep, Carla and I met because I used to be published by BMG. She used to work at BMG. Carla is so dope that when she went from BMG to Downtown, I left BMG and went to Downtown so that we could continue working together. So, but what's interesting, and I'm not even sure that she knew this part of the story, was I was having a really tough time getting into the relationship with the creative people that were supposed to be helping me. And what happened was we got I networked through BMG, actually out of New York, and I met somebody. We got a placement, and I thought, okay, great. I now have their attention. I want to send them this song, not written for film and TV, and see if I can drum up some interest. And nothing, nothing. They almost didn't even respond. And then 6 months later, we had another little placement. I thought, okay, great. I have their attention again, sort of. I'm going to send it again. I actually sent this song. I don't know if Carla knows this. I sent this song 3 or 4 times to BMG. Finally, there was someone there who was running the film and TV department, says, hey, you know, I think this is a pretty good song. And I don't want to sound braggadocious, so please do not misinterpret what I'm saying. But this song that was not listened to 4 times and rejected by an artist is made almost close to 7 figures on film and TV, and you've never heard it. And I think that there's some reasons why it's done so well. The first tip on writing songs for film and TV, any film and TV, is that you are second banana. They're not streaming it on Spotify. Your job is to create an emotional bed for what you're seeing on screen. So for me, it's like things like you're selling emotion, you're selling energy. Like those are the things you have to project. And when I say energy, it doesn't mean fast. It means that, it could be sad, it could be dark, it could be edgy, it could be all of these things. But you're there to serve the scene. You're there to serve what's happening on camera. So I'm going to play a little bit of this song, and I'll give you a couple of little tricks and tips of how I do stuff. The first thing is, it can't sound particularly film and TV-ish. One reason why I think this song feels so good is work, because we originally wrote it from the perspective as if an artist was going to sing it. And I think that was like a big component, because it didn't feel schlocky or kitschy or corny. The production didn't feel kind of canned, because we knew in our minds, oh, hey, somebody really cool like Janelle Monáe, knock on wood, is going to cut this record. And we need to make sure that she's not only sold by the lyric and the melody and the feeling and the emotion, but also on the track. So I want to play little bits of it. It's not going to sound great, but I want to jump to several different sections here. So I'm going to start from the beginning here. 1, 2, 3. Now, I stop right away. The count-in is something that you're going to hear a lot on the work that I've done. The reason why I do that is because these are these weird, strange dog whistles to music and music editors that work on TV shows and advertising that sort of immediately invokes a certain energy. I can't explain it. I just found that a lot of the records that I do have counts in them. I don't know why, but let's just keep moving. So it kind of gets into that verse, but I want to go to the second verse for a second here. So the second verse has the same kind of vibe, but it has a different production. And in fact, if you went and listened all the way through the song, we're at 1:30. We've probably heard 4 or 5 different sections that all sort of combine and connect to each other. And what's interesting about that is, in my mind, when I see a music editor, what I found that they like to do is they like to say, well, I like this piece at the end, but then I like this sort of pre-chorus, but then I like this lift section from the middle, and I'm going to find a way to smash them all together, because that's what's going to best benefit the picture that I have that I'm trying to lock to. And so the trick is, how do you create something that is structured and consistent, but also strangely can be modularized? That's not really a word, but you kind of get the point, into other different aspects. So I could take the end chorus, tack it onto the first verse, or I could take, for example, if you look here, I'm going to go backwards to the first kind of quote unquote pre-chorus. Here's this section. Also, small little things. If you keep the melodies kind of around the first and the fifth note, and kind of avoid the third note in the scale, those are things that evoke a certain different emotion. Unless, of course, it's darker, then you want to be in the third note because you want to emphasize the minor. Little sort of technical things like that. So But then there's that build, and then there's at the post chorus, there's this. There's a whole, oh, that's a whole nother section. So that could be cut out and used out of context. I'm going to go to sort of the bridge here. I don't know if you guys can hear. I'm getting some feedback that it's hard to hear it. So I apologize. But I guess even if you can't hear it so great, you can kind of still get the impression of what it is that I'm kind of jumping into. What I wanted to talk about now a little bit, if we can, because I really want Carla to jump in on this. I want to talk about when you see a brief from somebody, and we're doing a lot of that stuff here in MIDI. I'm just going to show you really quick. We have a bunch of briefs that are actually on the platform right now that you guys can pitch to. But besides that, Carla, when you get a brief from somebody, and we have a couple of them here that I'm going to show you guys real quick. I want to show you one that we just got that Carla showed me from the movie Trolls. Hang on, I'm going to bring that up on the camera. Carla, can you see that? You guys see that? The Trolls brief?
Yeah.
Okay, so Carla, walk us through this project. You've now received this brief. How do you go and know that? How do you interpret this and then go send the right song for that opportunity?
Well, this case was a little more of an original, but I think one of the first things is, hold on, I'm trying to, my old eyes. Yeah, I think the first thing is, really pay attention to the artists that they're referencing in the briefs. It sounds like a real no-brainer, but a lot of times people don't pay attention to they kind of get their own idea in their head of what something should be and don't pay attention to the creative that's right in front of them. So I think it's really important to, in this case, go back and if you're not sure, in this case, there's trailers you can go back and watch. You can get an idea of what the vibe of that film is. I think obviously you're going to want to keep, this is a very family-friendly film, so lyrically you really have to keep that in mind. And again, really pay attention and do some listening to the artist and song references that they're giving, because they're giving you those for a reason. And if you're going through your catalog and finding stuff to pitch, that's a little different than writing something from scratch. Hold on, I'm just going to pull it up on my end. It's a little easier to see. Again, they're giving you a lot here. They're giving you BPMs, probably because they've already animated some sort of dance or motion sequence that they need to sync the song up with. So pay attention to information like that that's being given to you.
So when they say, so for example, when they say, like I'm just looking down here, rock song, right? When they say, similar to Arena Rock, a la Quiet Riot, Kiss, Van Halen, like they're pretty specific about that. They're, it's like they want something that feels authentic to the time, sonically speaking, right? Like it's like
they want those guitar solos, they want those harmonized vocals, they want that fun. Even though some of these are, harder bands, they want that fun.
But yet they don't say that. Yet they don't say that. You're drawing that. You're extracting that from the information they're giving you, correct?
Yeah, and I guess that's what I'm going back to, like really paying attention to the artist references that they're giving you, and it is a little bit vague, and everyone interprets that in their own way. But think about how Quiet Riot or Kiss or Van Halen, think about those bands, go back and watch some of the trailers to some of the old Trolls films and sort of, try and figure out where those two feelings can intersect.
Right. Just to really understand the tonality of what it is that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Right. I'm with you. I think that sometimes it's now do music supervisors, and by the way, we're talking about Trolls movie, which is obviously a very big movie, but we can also talk about, something that is, which by the way, we do all the time. Carla can attest to this, YouTube Red, gratis licenses, whatever, right? Like that, like there's a lot of ways out there for people to take advantage. And I actually think I'm one of the people that believes, and I don't, Carla, maybe you can talk to this a bit, but I actually believe that there is a huge opportunity for independent artists that aren't affiliated to publishers to get opportunities to place music into TV shows like, like even, I don't know, like I said, YouTube shows or stuff that's online streaming only, because the budgets are a little bit lower. They're more eager to help find and give opportunities to young and emerging artists. Would you say that even if they're looking for something specific, try and be pretty close to what they're looking for, right? Like, I can't reiterate that enough. What are your thoughts?
I mean, 100%, absolutely. You have to, if you're just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks, they're going to be like, get out of my inbox, you're wasting my time. You really need to take a minute and see if you can figure out the types of things that would be relevant to them, because that's what's going to get their attention. Otherwise you're just clogging their inbox.
Best foot forward, right?
Exactly.
Would you say that that if you were to sort of look at, let's say, music that is, because now we work together a lot, and as you know, my philosophy is always approaching not as an artist, right? But if I'm writing specifically for film and TV, I approach it from, this is an artist project. I apply my sort of like, I use this term loosely, my pop record making mentality. I don't mean sonically pop. I mean just in terms of commercial, and apply that to making music that works. And I know that Carla's going to laugh at me because she always asks me to make sure that I send her clean, non-explicit versions of songs. But that's also kind of like a little bit of a trick that I do is if you just drop a little bit of, edgy language in there, a lot of times I go, oh, well, this can't, obviously this is not written for film and TV. Why would you say the word shit or something? It's like, so I find like sometimes those are little like mind games, little seeds that I plant that sort of somebody goes, oh, okay, cool. This is obviously, an artist thing. So do you find that there's the music supervisors respond more to stuff that feels authentically artistic versus stuff that feels sort of like specifically written for film and TV, or maybe there's place for both? What are your thoughts?
I think there's a place for both, for sure. I think in the TV film world, they respond to things that feel a little more like an artist project. And, that could be as like, Justin, I don't know if you remember this, but when I was at BMG, there was an indie film. It was like a little rom-com that ended up using one of your songs. And I think we asked you if you could really quickly like throw it up on Spotify and make it up like a little artist profile, because the supervisor was calling me saying like, hey, is there any way you could just like throw it up online somewhere so my producer and my director feel like they're using, not a sync song. So I think there are little things you can do nowadays that aren't very expensive or aren't particularly difficult that you can do just to give yourself a little bit of a presence to make something feel more authentic. And I do think that is helpful.
Did I get paid on that one? Did I get paid on that?
Sorry?
Did I get paid on that one? Did I get paid on it? I haven't seen it on my statement yet. Yeah, I think that's all really good. And again, I can't stress this enough. I really feel like there's a huge lane that's available to, it's like sometimes, I've had this conversation and it kind of goes both ways, but my position hasn't really wavered on this, which is, I really think that there's a strong advantage to, a lot of times people hear terms like, Carla, maybe you could talk about this. Easy, clear, one stop. What does that mean?
Easy clear means you're not gonna be a pain in the ass. No. So easy clear is basically just like, look, I need to clear this in 2 days. I need there to not be any hiccups. I need you to guarantee me that this is the budget I have, that this is what, that this is all going to be okay. And it doesn't mean that, Easy Clear doesn't necessarily mean one stop. Like Justin, I would pitch your stuff as Easy Clear, and you know, you have a couple riders on it. You control your own masters. Easy Clear just means no red flags. Everyone will get a yes response quickly. All the budget will be fine. One stop, however, means you just control 100% of your master and publishing, which, you know, will lend itself to be Easy Clear. But people just want fast, no hiccups, you know, and if they get that and then they get a good song out of it, I promise they'll come back for more.
So let's actually talk about fast for a second. Okay. So, because we get this a lot. Obviously, we have a strong working relationship, but we see this a lot. Explain the email that we get sometimes, especially for us, we're on the West Coast, so there's a bit of an advantage on the East Coast, where they're like, "Oh, yeah, we need something by 3 p.m. Eastern and today, right? Like they need to clear something today, or they need to at least identify and collect music today." So how quickly can you hear me?
Yeah.
So how quickly do we need to be on these? Like, can we kind of sit on them, or if an opportunity presents itself, do we need to kind of be on it right away?
Be on it right away. I mean, I've worked for, Warner Records, BMG, Downtown, and no matter how big my company is or how small my company is, I'm on that right away. And especially if you're if you're an up and coming artist without an established relationship, you need to get in there. As you don't rush it so much that you're sending crappy ideas, but you need to get in there. And I've had, not all supervisors, but some say, like, early bird gets the worm. Sometimes I start listening to things as they come in, and even if the deadline hasn't passed yet, if I found the 10 good ideas that I need, I'm done, I'm on to the next thing. So don't sit on those.
So one of the things that we're going to start doing in MDIIO is we've actually not been putting up basically like 911 searches, because we need to, we need to be able to get responses immediately, but we're going to start doing a lot of that. So if you see that email and you feel like you have something that you could pitch for it, just do it. But again, just to reiterate for like the 10th time, don't pitch something that you think is not really strong. Because even if you pitch something that's strong, you don't get, I mean, Carla, again, maybe speak to this. If you pitch something strong, but you don't get that slot, you're building good energy with the person that you pitch it to, right? Like they might go, well, this isn't right, but my God, close, right? So
I land things all the time that, send to a supervisor that works on 7 different projects and, maybe didn't land in the scene that I was originally pitching to, but fast forward 3 months and they're like, oh wait, that was a good song. And, it ends up in one of their other projects. It happens all the time. As long as you're relevant enough that you're, again, it's not throwing anything at the wall and seeing what sticks. It's about, yes, being specific to what the supervisor needs, because that creates a good, it creates the initial good relationship. But yes, if you're doing that and it doesn't necessarily stick 100%, they'll file it away. They'll file it in their bin of swagger bombs and come back the next time they need that. And, then your song's there.
Well, actually, it's so funny. You've sort of like inadvertently kind of led me to something. Like, would you say like things like swagger rock, hip hop are
yes, and yes
common list right now? Okay, so
yes.
Swagger, rock, hip hop. So let me spell swagger right. Let's start there. So I can, let's say, search swagger rock hip hop, and I can, let's say, for example, I think I've sent you these songs. I think you probably have these songs. But like Back from the Dead, for example, I'm going to play it. I don't know if you guys are going to hear it, but. So swagger rock hip hop, for example, is a strong search. What are some other strong searches right now that that are very sort of popular out there right now?
Everyone still wants, the female retro, retro soul, 808s, hip hop, swagger. We always joke, we share office space with somebody, with a supervisor who, always jokes about, his swagger bomb folder. And, it's true, he goes to, we send him stuff, he files it away. The next time Jeep is looking for something that sounds like the Black Keys or whatever, there you go. It's right there. So those are big, still really big trends.
Right.
And yeah, hip hop with energy, which isn't necessarily the trend out in the real world right now, but like, the stuff that you were just playing, the clean sort of flow rider-y type hip hop that still has some energy to it is still a really big trend. And that's actually something that's a little harder to find because it's not the current hip hop trends in the hip hop world. So a lot of that type of music is coming from people who are writing for sync.
And Lizzo's a big one too, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
So, right. So the whole idea is to be able to search, and find that song that matches Lizzo. So in this case, I have one actually futuristic. I think. So that would be something that, for example, would kind of work. So eventually we'll find a slot for it. How would you suggest would be a good way for people to kind of do that research? Like how could somebody just kind of do their own research to kind of discover the trends? Like, could they go to? I think there's a website called iSpot.tv, right? Is that it? I think I want to say that's what.
Oh yeah.
Where you can basically look up commercials and it tells you what songs are used in what commercials, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
All right. So there's ways to sort of discover or at least identify the trends as they sort of happen. Would you say, or as they're happening?
Definitely. I mean, it doesn't even have to be that difficult, like resist the urge to fast forward through the commercials when you're watching television and really, pay attention to, to what you're hearing, because you will start to hear, you'll start to hear a lot of similarities as to what's being used. And again, picking a few shows, watching them, going to TuneFind, going into Spotify and seeing what those playlists are for those shows that use a ton of music. Yeah.
What about covers?
Yes. Covers, it's really important to really put your own, there's a fine line between taking a cover so far that it's not unrecognizable. You don't want to do that. You also don't want to do a straight up sound alike for many reasons. One being it's just not that interesting or creative. And two, the original artist isn't going to love that, because if it's going to sound like their original song, they want their song to be used. So it's a fine line of putting your own cool, modern spin without taking it so far that the song is unrecognizable. But covers are a really, really big trend. They continue to be a very big trend.
Right. So let's say like a singer-songwriter cover of, I don't know, whatever. I think a popular one is Creep by Radiohead. That's probably too popular, but like,
Right.
I've heard some really cool covers of like Beyonce Crazy Love that got used for 50 Shades of Grey, for example. Like that could be quite lucrative too, right? Like if you have a really amazing cover version, you might not get the publishing side, but you own that master recording, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right. So those can be quite lucrative in their own right.
They can. And that is a situation where, going back to our MFN conversation, where you would drop MFN with the publishing, because obviously if you're doing a cover of a massive song, they're going to pay a little bit more for the publishing of that song than the new master. But yes, absolutely, because if you do a good job, it's a huge trend right now. And they tend to be a little different. A cover for a trailer is going to be different than a cover for a TV show. Probably cover for a trailer is going to be a lot bigger or more dramatic, lots of builds, and something for a TV show is probably going to be a little more organic and stripped down. In some cases, not always, but.
So I want to go back to just sort of recapping a bunch of the stuff that we talked about, because I really want to open the conversation to some questions here, but recapping is the same research that you've just built relationships, but the same research that you would do, IMDb Pro, logging in, discovering who the music supervisors are, being able to reach out to them, putting your best foot forward, all of those sorts of things. Those are tools and tricks that you use that are just as applicable to somebody that's creating music in their basement, right? I mean,
absolutely. Right. I'm using, in terms of that, I don't have any magical resources through my company that, the person sitting in their basement making music doesn't have. You just go in and do your research, and, because I'm doing that as well. I'm not always just sitting there waiting for a brief to come in, and I'm being proactive. I'm doing my homework. I'm reaching out and saying, hey, I got a batch of 10 new songs that I think would be really great for whatever show. And I'm doing my homework and making sure that I know I know what they need and I'm sending them relevant stuff. And it's just getting on the computer, getting on, Spotify and IMDb and TuneFind and all of that and just figuring it out.
And also, I think to the other really important thing is relationship building, right? Like, I know people, obviously we know people people at whatever, Saatchi, but then I also know people that are doing, that have $10,000 budgets to do music for a whole YouTube web series, so there's music supervisors and there's people that are out there that are licensing music at all kinds of levels that are not, that like, in those music supervisors that are doing YouTube series that need to find music, those are great opportunities for anybody, because those are just cool things that kind of, they validate what you're doing, first of all, creatively as an artist. But, it's funny, we talk about Lizzo, but Lizzo's a great example to me. Like, Lizzo had done well in film and TV, but really, the thing that really launched Lizzo was that she had a placement at a Netflix show, and through the impeccable timing of the universe, Oprah and Beyonce both tweet about this song in this show, and then of course Lizzo blows up and it becomes Truth Hurts, right? A song that had been written and released 3 years earlier, then to become basically the biggest song of 2019, and has launched her career, right? So it's like, I think that we live in a universe right now where things like that can happen. Lizzo was well known in the sync world, but she was not a mainstream artist. But the right placement gave her, didn't it?
And to backtrack a little bit on that, supervisors have their go-tos. I know for a fact that for those, like you were talking about, those YouTube shows where they have very limited budgets, and that there are searches that I'm not even getting, because they know that they just can't afford anything that any sort of established publisher or label is going to be able to give them. So they have their little of people that they go to that I don't even see. So yes, absolutely.
Right, I'm saying that there's opportunities out there for every artist at every level, every songwriter at every level. One of the things that I like to, I'm not an artist per se myself. So one of the things that I like to do as a producer, because as a songwriter producer, is I love to link up with an artist who I really believe in, who I think is great. And I bring to the table something that maybe they don't, right? Like, I can help them make the records, but they can bring in the sort of the artist component to what it is that we do. And I think there's a lot of opportunities to collaborate on that level, where everybody kind of can coexist and work together. Boy, this time has really flown by. I'd love to take some questions here. Scott, are there any questions that have sort of come up?
You bet. So can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so perfectly. So the first question is, Narcus wants to know whether or not, when you send in a demo, does it have to be mastered commercial quality, or if it's sort of a rougher version, will people still be interested and then want it to be developed after that?
That's a great question. Carl, you want to jump on this one?
Yeah, it all depends. I would say if you're sending just as proactively, send them finished songs. No one wants the hassle of going, because what's happening is, they're sending that to their editors and their producers. They're cutting it in, they're locking the show. And then for them to hear like, oh, it's not done yet, is very annoying. So I think, and even as far as if you're sending a demo for, say, an original, I would get it as close to the way you want it to sound as it is, because as much as music supervisors and directors and producers think they know how to listen to a demo, they absolutely don't. They never do. So I would always get things as, as far as writing an original, get it as close sounding to the original, to the finished product as you can. And if you're proactively sending music, send finished products, don't send demos.
That's a great one. Anything else?
And a follow-up question to do with that is whether or not, how many should you pitch for each brief? How many songs should you send in?
I would send, unless they specifically say, which sometimes they do, load me up, I need a ton of music. I would keep it to maybe if it's maybe your top 5, less is more. Better to send 1 slam dunk than 10 mediocres.
That's again, it's going back to building that relationship, because it might not work this time, but that person might go, oh, like I'm just looking at a name here, like Sheldon, right? They might go, oh man, Sheldon's got, this record doesn't work, but I love what he does. So I know that I'm going to go back to Sheldon next time, and I've now added 1 person to my network, right?
Perfect. So the next question is, in percentages, how many instrumental tracks get placed over songs with lyrics and voices?
That depends. In the commercial world, instrumentals are used a lot more. Trailers in TV and film, it's mostly songs with lyrics. Just tracks tend to be a little more difficult, because also a lot of times if it's just a track, unless there's something really specific they're looking for, they're going to utilize their composer that they hired, or a library that they have on retainer. But every media is a little different. So again, TV, film, mostly songs with vocals. Commercials, you can get away with instrumental tracks a little bit more.
I want to jump in, and I just want to riff off that question. What are your thoughts on artists at sort of early stages, kind of tying into libraries in terms of as far as opportunity, the opportunity to generate placements?
I think it's great. I have a lot of friends who, pay their bills by writing music for libraries. And, a lot of times it's just one-time buyouts. They see some money on the back end and their royalties, but, I think it's a way to generate some income for yourself and keep working and, get a little money in your royalty checks. Go for it. If it's making you money, that's, it's really important.
That's great. I see a couple. I see Sheldon has one here, but let's keep going down the list here. What's next, Scott?
So the next question is from Glenn, and he'd like to know how you go about picking the demo singers for the pitches you send out when you do your production.
That's a great question. Obviously, I'll take this one. So a lot of times, as much as I can, I try to work with people that are bringing an artist component to it. So. I know this sounds like a terrible, terrible thing to say, and I love so many of these people, but like quote unquote demo singers, I've not had a lot of success with. To me, the people that I've had the most success with in terms of film and TV is people that have characteristic voices, like people, so they don't have to be the best singers, but people that can actually exert the emotion that I'm trying to get out of the song. And so again, part of my networking is knowing the right people. So it's like, I know that if I want to do something that feels authentically hip hop, I'm going to work with Romel, who's an artist of mine. In fact, I was going to show it to you, but we were kind of running out of time. We have a song called "Pray for a Miracle" that was the song for a movie called Brian Banks last year. When Carla was still at BMG, we got sent a brief. We wrote to that brief. We got the slot. That one I think was worth about $50,000. And it was a license. We owned it. They don't own it. We own it. We got to keep everything. So I think it's about find the singer that's going to make it feel the most authentic to what it is that you're going for. So just because somebody's a great singer, it doesn't mean that they're going to be able to sing, an obnoxious rock song like a Vines or a Hives record. It's like really go into your Rolodex and kind of think about, who do I know that would be an artist? And most of the time, you can work out deals. I worked out a deal, and that song feels so good with that singer who came in and sang it for us, and she had a great deal. I gave her 10% of the master earnings of that song. She came in and worked for 2 hours and was paid about $35,000. So that was a pretty good deal for her. And I think that as you start to get better at this and you start getting placements, you can go and do those sorts of deals with, by the way, she's made more than that, because anytime it's getting used for SAG, she's also earning from that point too. So she's done really quite well. What's up? Any more?
Yeah. So the next question is, Kelly had success with placing their sync last year for an IMAX trailer, and they want to know how to use this to leverage to get more syncs. Carla.
I don't know that, that's a tough one, because so for that particular song, sure, if you're sending out, blasts, and that's a tough one, because people want to use your music in their own creative way. So sometimes saying, hey, look at the sync that I got. Hey, look how my song was used. Yes, sometimes it can be helpful to people's juices, you know, to see that your song is being used and how it's being used. Sometimes people say, well, you know, I have my own creative ideas and I don't want you to show me. So, I mean,
I hate to jump in. I think she's talking about more like leverage. You know, how does she say, well, okay, I've had this sort of like bit of success. How do I take this and use that as a door opener to go meet other people? Look, can I jump in? Do you mind if I jump in for a moment? Is that okay?
No, not at all. And I mean, definitely leverage the relationship that you created while, you know, negotiating that first deal. Obviously, it went well.
Totally. That you know what, I was going to say that exact same thing. Somebody's already licensed that, and that's not the only project that they're doing. Maintain that relationship, even if you have something that you've written that you just love. Like, and this is the other thing I think that is something to consider. That it's like, yes, you pitch, but correct me if I'm wrong, Carla. But if you get something in that you think is just bang on, even if it's not right for them at this moment, you might still send it and say, hey, we just came across a song that we think is really great. Even if you have nothing for it, I just wanted to put it on your radar. Would you say that that's something you would do?
Yeah, especially with someone that you have some established success and a relationship with. Yeah.
Especially, I think in Kelly's case, when you have that relationship, they've already licensed your song. You already have a history of doing business together. They're going to go, oh, she's really great. You know what? You should meet my friend so-and-so. They're working on a thing that I think that what you do could be really great. You know, I just think it's about maintaining those relationships. And that's something that took me a long time to learn, is how do you make these not one-off transactions, but how do you actually maintain this relationship? You know what I mean? And I think that's something that we all make that mistake of not being able to actually take it and transition from being a one-off transaction to actually a longer-term relationship. I hope that helps. And, you know, guys, most of you have my email. Feel free to hit me, and I'm happy to dig into it some more. Anything else?
Yeah, so this is a 2-in-1 question. What do you think is the best song structure for capturing music supervisors' attention, especially for TV? And does the song length matter, or will they find pieces from it?
Those are good questions. I'll start from a creative, then Carla, maybe you could jump in from the perspective of how you would pitch a song to somebody. We kind of went over it a little bit. I know that there were some audio issues. We're going to look forward to fixing that for next week. Really good topic next week, by the way, which we'll leave with, tell you about. But I find if you can find a way to make a song feel cohesive, but also have a lot of different sections that you can kind of like take and move around musically and instrumentally. You know, sometimes, I mean, I've heard people chop up. I mean, we had an Xbox commercial that happened right at the end of last year. I mean, like, it was hardly recognizable, the song, by the time they were done. But what's funny is that was the same song that was used in Toy Story 4 trailer. So music editors are using it as a tool in their palette of how they evoke the emotion. So I would say, you know, just a little quick tip is like, make sure that like the first chorus and the second chorus and the third chorus all feel a little bit different. You know, maybe the first chorus is just a breakdown, and the third chorus is the biggest, so they could chop that up. You know, make it so that maybe the verses, you know, there's a different approach to the second verse than there is to the first verse creatively. I use a little trick that I use called resetting. So the idea is like, how do you reset their interest every 4 bars without completely grinding the creative to a halt on the song? That's a big thing that I apply. And if you listen to some of the records that I've done, I think you'll hear that. It's like every 2 to 4 bars, what is resetting my attention? Because when you look at especially advertising, it's how do I keep snapping the listener back or the viewer back into this? So I call it resetting. That's a little term I came up with. But it's like, how do we reset that interest? Maybe it's I've just introduced a new guitar sound, or here comes a background vocal, or here's a breakdown, or here's an 808 drop, or now all of a sudden there's a hi-hat pattern, or whatever it is. You know, like, try not to be linear. I think that's probably my big tip. And no, I don't think the song needs to be any length. I think it could be, you know, if you have a minute 30, that's an absolute beast. You're going to be great. Carla, any thoughts?
Honestly, everything. The only thing I would say about the length is like, again, and it comes back to send a full song. It's fine if the song's 1 minute and 30 seconds, but don't send them like 30 seconds of like a snippet. Just make it just finish the product. And yeah, everything that Justin said, look, the music is a tool, like you said, for the editors, for the producers, for the directors. The song has to enhance whatever it's supporting. The minute it drags down the picture, the song is out. The song is a tool. The song is not the main focus. So yeah, keep it moving, keep it building, and kind of everything you said. Get to the point quickly so you don't lose their attention.
Good point. What's next?
Because I have two combined questions again. So Yash is a great question. How the process works for somebody who's overseas in another country, especially Asia. How do they pitch? How do they send stuff? And what format? WAV, MP3, etc.
Well, I mean, Carla could probably deal with this question because Downtown is a global company. Do you want to take a shot at that one?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it matters where you are. I mean, we have songs coming in from all over the world. As far as technically how to send this song, I would start, unless otherwise specified, MP3 in a link that is both downloadable and they can stream. So they can stream it and listen to it and decide if they want to download it before they do. And also send instrumentals as well.
Preferably from MDIIO.com, where you can actually track, little selfish plug, where you can actually track all of the pitches and see if they've been opened and listened to and downloaded. So yes, preferably from MDIIO.com. But so yeah, I don't think I think it doesn't matter. Just again, going back to one of the first things we discussed is the song wins. The song absolutely 100% wins. So it doesn't matter if you're living in Kuala Lumpur. I mean, if you have the right song for the right opportunity, you're going to win. Anyway, I hope that helps. What's next?
So the last question we have right now listed is from Todd, and he'd like to know if we run promotional campaigns online promoting sync opportunities.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're digging into more deeply on MDIIO is what we call projects. So when you guys log in, you guys can all use it for free. When you log in, you can click on the projects link, and you'll also get notifications through your inbox where there's opportunities available. I think we have 4 now. We're going to put a couple more on and over the weekend, and then a whole bunch next week where you can actually start activating and pitching those songs. And so yeah, and if you go there, you can upload, and there's a help section that shows you how to like upload songs, add tags, add collaborators, whatever, how to pitch, all of that stuff. So. And again, you guys all have my email, so just hit me up if you have any questions, and we'll try and get on there and support you as much as possible. But the idea is that those opportunities are available, and they're ever expanding every day. I actually see one here. I have a sync on a final season of episode for Netflix. Oh yeah, no, that was one we just did.
Yeah, exactly. We do have one last one from Chris. He wants to know whether or not it's beneficial for a producer to build a profile on Spotify so that people can see all the different lanes they fill with their music.
Yeah, I mean, I think any opportunity you have to create some awareness of who you are, I think is really great. For me, in my experience, I found it's really fun because I've actually run into people who I've never met ever, and they're like, "Oh, you're Justin Gray? Yeah, I put your song in blah blah blah," and so I'm like, "Oh shit, thank you very much. You paid my mortgage this year. I appreciate you." So. But one thing that happened recently is I found out through a relationship. I met a music supervisor who placed my song in the Toy Story 4 trailer. I went out, I took him out for coffee. I'm like, we've become friends since then, friendly, and now it's just building that relationship again. I think any chance you have to expand your network, if it means building a Spotify profile for yourself. If it means creating I'm trying to think now. I have a project called Black and Gray. I have a project called Retro City All Stars. I have a project that I'm just finishing up now called Hype Monster. There's a whole bunch of, there's like 3 or 4 Mojo. There's like 5 projects that I have that actually allow me to really scratch that artistic itch that I have. I'm tying in really cool artists with me. So all of them are also building profiles. All of those things, as they evolve, are all going to come back to helping push out and increase, I think, your business as doing music for film and TV. Learning metadata. I see this one. So Whitney, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead of you here, Scott. So Whitney, the question for Whitney Fox is, can you possibly say again where I can learn how to do metadata? So what I suggest is, as we said, if you guys hit brand@MDIIO.com, we'll go through a tutorial with you guys, kind of like this, taking questions. We'll keep the group smaller so we can actually communicate. And I can show you how to do it. It's really, really, really easy, super simple to do. Actually in MDIIO. And one of the advantages compared to, let's say, iTunes that Carla was talking about is you can have as many genre tags as embedded metadata as you want. So we'll show you how to do that. Super easy. It really couldn't be easier. So if you guys are interested in that, hit up brand@MDIIO.com and we'll set up separately a tutorial session where we can go through MDIIO and show you how to use it.
And so, yeah, Junior has a question. If you already have to be a member of a PRO before you can submit music through MDIIO?
Nope, you don't have to. You can. It's better if you are represented by a PRO. That's not necessary. If you wanted to actually register with SOCAN, we actually can do direct registration and integration right through MDIIO. If that sounds like an option for you, you can do that with us, but you don't have to. I would say that you can submit music, but if you did get a bite, I would pretty much try and figure out how to register those songs with the PRO. As post haste. But I hope that this was that helped you. I'm really happy that you guys all joined. We kept most of you in which is nice, and I'm really appreciative. And again, please, my email works. Hit me up. Most of the people that hit me up directly, I responded to, and always open and available. And if you want to pitch me some music, pitch it to me through MDIIO. But I hope that you guys all have a great day and stay safe. And you can't tell from my svelte physique, but I've started running 4 miles a day, 2 in the morning and 2 at night, just to kind of keep me sane. A friend said I'm going to look like Brad Pitt soon, and I said I'm just going to look like Dad Pitt, so I'll be fine with that too. Carla, I really wanted to thank you for joining us today and really showing some of your incredible wisdom. I think you've given people some really remarkable strategies and tools to how to elevate and escalate and take their business to the next level. So again, really, really grateful for you taking the time today. I know that you're really busy, because one thing that we didn't discuss that I think and if you just want to talk about it a little bit, is like the need for music is ever increasing, and it is not, I did notice a question, and is not, it's not really slowing down per se, even based on our current environment, right? Like there's a lot of content that needs music, would you say?
Yes, absolutely. The need never slows down. I think sometimes the trends change a little bit, but the need for music never slows down. The need for libraries are popping up left and right, but the need for good, real, authentic music is always there. And even now, there are medias that are slowing down a little bit, but we're still chugging away here. So,
well, we appreciate it, everybody. Thanks again so much. Take care. Be safe. Do good. Bye, guys. Keep writing.
bye.